Hey everybody, and welcome again to this live class for Gelli Arts. My name is Birgit Kooksen and I'm a brand ambassador for Gelli Arts. And I'm here today to show you how you can create your own stamps or texture tools using a hot glue gun. And of course, I'm also going to show you how you can use these tools on your gel plate. So let's just get started, and so maybe we can switch to my hands. So first I'm going to show you how to create these texture tools, and I have a couple here that, as you can see, clearly have been used. And these were made with hot glue on a piece of cardboard, but I also sometimes make them on a block of wood. And this is one of my texture blocks, and I did a class for Michaels on making these texture blocks too, so that you can find that on the Michaels website and also on the Gelli Arts YouTube channel. And I'm going to show you how to create these, and then when I've shown you that, I will show you how you can print with them. To be able to make these, there are a couple of things that you need. One of them is the cardboard or a wooden block, but the ones that I'm going to create today are going to be on cardboard. And of course you need a hot glue gun, and the one I have here, you will not find the exact same one on the Michaels website, because I'm in the Netherlands in Europe and we have different power system. So this one, the Michaels ones would not work in the Netherlands, but there are a whole lot of different glue guns available on the Michaels website, and they all will do the job. I have a small one here. You also have bigger ones, but I like the smaller ones because you get smaller lines and more detail in your textures with the smaller one, and you will get thicker lines if you use a bigger glue gun. You also need some refill hot glue. How would I call them? Well, just these like hot glue sticks. So mine are very yellow. That's because they've been lying in daylight and the color changed. So normally they are more like a white or a transparent one, but you can also get all kinds of colors and even glitter. But in this case, that's not necessary, because it's going to be a tool that's being covered with paint, right? So you can just use the normal one. Then you also need some parchment paper or a craft sheet. So if you don't have a craft sheet, you can just use parchment paper, and that will also do the job. I have a couple of sheets here. You can not do this on normal paper because the glue will stick to the paper. And what you need is that the paper releases the hot glue when it's cooled down. So you need parchment paper or a non-sticky craft sheet. So what I usually do, you can do it two ways around. You can either take a piece of cardboard and draw your image on top using the hot glue gun. You could even draw your image with a pencil first, if you don't know if you can do it like straight onto the cardboard. So let's make a leaf. Let's make an easy one. So I'm just going to make a leaf shape, and I'm going to add some veins so I can follow the lines with my hot glue gun and create a texture in the shape of a leaf. So I could either draw it on here, like I'm going to do now, or I could draw it on my parchment paper and then put the cardboard on top later. I prefer to do it this way around because I want to be in control of the amount of pressure that I put on the cardboard when well, I will show you. I have to turn it around at some point, and I want to be more in control of the pressure, and that's easier when the hot glue is on the cardboard. But this will make more sense when I show you. So I'm just going to see if my glue is hot enough, which it is. And you have to be careful because this is like really, really hot, and you don't want to touch your fingers with it. So you have to be a bit careful. Now I'm just going to follow these lines.
So Birgit, somebody's asked, is it high temperature or low temperature glue? I didn't know there was a difference.
To be honest, I don't know that there's a difference either.
Okay.
It is really, really hot. So if this is low temperature, then I don't even want to start using high temperature. But I really don't know.
I don't
actually. When I'm done with this one, I will see if I can see it on the. Maybe there's a sign on the glue gun that tells me.
Okay, we'll look at two. We'll do a little research.
Well, I would say if it melts like this, then if low temperature melts like this, then it would probably be enough. You don't need a high temperature. So as you can see, I've turned my cardboard around on the parchment paper. Why do I do this? Well, I want my the top of my glue to be evenly flat. And I won't say that it doesn't work if you leave it to dry or to cool down as it is. But the difference is, so here I didn't turn it around, and I don't know if you can see it, if I can show you, but maybe you can see, or at least imagine, that the glue is not the same height everywhere, which means that you might see not get certain details in your print because some areas are lower than other areas. Does that make sense? So if you put this down on the gel plate, which is an even layer, if there are areas that are thinner, they will not touch the plate, so they will not take away any paint, right? So you might lose little details. If you have the surface of your glue evenly flat, then every detail will be visible on your plate. The downside is that you kind of squeeze out the glue, and so you get these like a little bit wider lines. So if you do it like this, you can have thinner lines, but you might lose some details in your prints. And if you do it like this, you might end up with little areas that are like completely filled because the glue squeezed out. But personally, I like the look of this. It's a very organic and a very random look. So you kind of don't have complete control about how your texture is going to look when you create it. So as I said before, I do my like to do my glue on the cardboard, because then when I turn it around, I can just very gently push it down a little bit so I get an even top layer. If I do it the other way around and I draw on my parchment paper and then put the cardboard on top, it's harder to feel how much pressure you have to put on there to not like completely squeeze out the glue. On the other hand, you can kind of experiment with that, and once you know how much pressure you need, the benefit of using doing it the other way around is that you could put a drawing, for instance, or a photo or a picture or whatever you want to trace underneath the parchment paper, and then you can just trace it on top of the parchment paper and then put the cardboard on top. So there are different ways to do it, and they all have their own benefits and their own problems. So when you're able to lift up the cardboard, then your glue is dry, or I should not say dry, I should say cooled down. And this one, I actually managed to put exactly the right amount of pressure on it. So my glue has not squeezed out too much, but I still managed to get that like even, very even flat top layer. So now I can just use a pair of scissors or a craft knife and a cutting mat and cut it a little bit smaller, so I have a better idea of where I create the texture when I put it down on the gel plate. So I always like to cut them a little bit smaller, so I have a better idea. So, okay, I'm actually going to also do one on the parchment paper, so you can see how that's done. And then I can make some prints. This is still hot, so let's just do this. So if you want to do a bigger texture, then you have to work in stages, because I cannot go on forever like this. Well, I could go on, but then at some point, my first parts will be have cooled down already, while the last ones that I'm working on are still hot, and you need them to be hot to be able to make them stick to the cardboard. So what I could actually do is, but then I need to do it the other way around. So on my cardboard is, for instance, if I have this, I have one here that has like 4 circles. Now I already have put this on my parchment paper and released it. And now I could add another circle or more, just as much as I want. And I can put it on the parchment paper again. And once this is cooled down, I can turn it around and I can add more details or more circles and do that again. So I can work in stages and build up my my texture. This way I can also make, for instance, a texture with more leaves, and for instance, start only with the outline, create a couple of outlines, turn them around, let them cool down, turn them back again, and then do the veins inside, and then again, turn it around and let it cool down. Now, let me see. This is still sticking to the parchment paper, which means that it's not enough cooled down. If it's enough cooled down, it will quite easily come off the parchment paper. So there's no use in trying to get it off right now, because it will just tear the paper. So I'm just going to put this aside, because I'm pretty sure you get the idea, and I will take them off once they are cooled down completely. I'm just going to take the power of my glue gun, and then I'm going to prepare for some printing. So today I'm going to use the 5x7 inch Gelli Arts gel printing plate, and as you can see, I've put it on a sheet of paper. Sometimes I put it on the sheet of paper because I need the paper to line up my printing paper. But another reason to put it on a sheet of paper is that my my surface is a darker gray, and if I would put it on my table like this, it would not move, which is fine, but I would not see like the real colors because of the darker color underneath. So I like to put it on a sheet of white paper, but then I don't want it to move around, which it now can easily do. So I'm going to secure my paper to the table with some masking tape, just to make sure that it stays in place when I brayer my paint on, or when I put my paper on or remove my paper, and that it's not like going everywhere. Okay. Today I'm going to work with acrylic paint, and the acrylic paints that I'm using today are Winsor & Newton Galleria and Liquitex Basic Acrylic Paint. And these are both soft, no, I can't remember the word I'm looking for. Soft body. These are both soft body paints, both the Liquitex and the Winsor & Newton. So I'm just going to use that, and I'm going to use the Speedball soft rubber brayer. And I have some cleanup paper here on the side, which I will use to clean my brayer. So the only way I'm going to use to clean my brayer in between prints is rolling it off on the cleanup paper and then just use it again. That is something that you can do really well with acrylic paint. You don't have to clean your brayer in between all the time. So I'm going to print on a white card. In this case, it's the Recollections card from Michaels, and I'm using the 4.5 by 6.5 inch paper, which is a little bit smaller than my gel plate. So I know that my entire sheet of paper will be covered with paint. I'm going to print a couple of pages with just random backgrounds. I'm not going to use the textures just yet, because I want to build up some layers. So I'm going to create a couple of backgrounds with lighter colors. It is totally possible to create darker colored backgrounds and print on them with lighter colors, but then you have to be very well aware of the opacity of your paint. And as I don't want to think about that today, I just want to combine pretty colors. I'm going to work with the lighter colors in my background and use darker colors to print with on top. So I can be pretty sure that that my second layer will actually cover up my first layer. But if you want to do it the other way around, if you like to work on a darker background, then you definitely can. You can check out your paints and see how the opacity of your paint is. And you can see that actually when you have a more professional paint like Liquitex or Winsor & Newton, you can actually see on the tube if you're having an opaque, a translucent, or medium translucent paint. So you have a little square on the tube, and here you can see it's a little square that's a solid square. And here you have a square that's half solid, half open. And here you have an open square. There you can see whether or not your paint is opaque. So if you have a solid square, then you have an opaque paint. This is a semi-translucent paint, and this is the translucent paint. So if you would like to work with a darker color in your background, and you want a lighter color on top, then you could do that by using, for instance, like a lighter pink, which is still an opaque color. So you can use this on top of a darker background. But I don't want to have to worry about that today. So that's why I'm just going to create a couple of backgrounds that have lighter colors. And so I can be pretty sure that it will work out. Are there any questions right now that I can answer?
I knew you were going to ask right now. There are none because we're all mesmerized. So can you hurry up? I'm just teasing. Yeah. But I can't wait to see how you use the little cardboard stamps. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I just need a couple of backgrounds so I can print on them, can start using the textures on the backgrounds.
I will say this, the colors, can you tell us the colors that you're using for the backgrounds? Because they are so pretty, that yellow and green, and they're really pretty colors.
So the yellow is a primary yellow from Liquitex. And I mixed that with the bright aqua green, which gives you an almost like a very bright green. And this is the same color, the bright aqua green, but then mixed with white, which gives you a totally different color, as you can see. So on the Michaels website, you cannot click to a specific color. So you can just follow the link and get all of the Liquitex colors together next to each other, and the same for the Winsor & Newton colors. So here you can see this one is my second print I took from this color combination. So I had quite a lot of paint on the plate, and so there was some paint left on the plate and also some on my brayer that I then brayed on for a second print. And because I then had a very thin layer of color, it also picked up the yellow from my first print, as you can see. So this is my favorite print of these three. And that's also one of the reasons that I hardly ever clean my gel plate, because this first one is a very clean print. It's just the two colors that I put on there, and there's hardly anything else, just a tiny little bit here in the corner. But these little bits of paint that come from a previous print and add some extra color and texture in a print makes the print so much more interesting, in my opinion. So I like to leave on any leftover paint before I start a new print. Even here you can see a little bit of that yellow, which makes it way more interesting than if I would only have the aqua green and the white, right? So I'm going to do one or two more backgrounds, and then I'm going to use my little hot glue tools. So let's do another light combination. And now I want not to mix the yellow with the pink. So I'm just rolling off my brayer, so it's clean enough to roll out the yellow without mixing it with the pink. Because otherwise, if I would just have moved my brayer from there to there, then the yellow and the pink would have mixed, and then you get a bit of a muddy, not so bright color. So then it's better to just clean your brayer in between to make sure that you keep the the colors bright, nice and bright. This is a nice color combination, I think, and I'm just going to add a little bit more paint, tiny bit, so I can also pick up the leftovers.
Birgit, your colors are always so pretty. So what do you is there something you look for in your color choices? I don't know.
Well, you know, I like contrast and I like bright colors, and so for some reason I tend to use colors that are complementary colors. So that's colors that are opposite of each other on the color wheel. But I know that when I look at my prints and I put a color wheel next to it, but it's not something that I do, that I think about. That's just something that happens because I like those color combinations. But if that doesn't come naturally to you, you can use a color wheel and look on the color wheel to for colors that are opposite of each other. So the thing is that if you use them next to each other, then you get these like really nice contrasts, but you should not mix them. So for instance, on the color wheel, orange and green are opposite of each other. If you would mix them, no, that's not true. Blue and orange are opposite of each other, but if you would mix them, you would get a muddy color. But if you put them next to each other in a print, then you get a really nice contrast. So you can either make sure that you don't mix them on the plate, or you can print them in layers. So you could start with, for instance, an orange layer and then put something blue on top, because once the orange is dry and you put the blue on top, then they will not mix, but they will give you the nice contrast. There is a lot of information about color theory available on the internet, but I think that Marcia, actually, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Marcia made a video for Gelli Arts about color theory. So if you're interested in doing, in learning a little bit more about that, then you can definitely check that out on the Gelli Arts YouTube channel. Okay, let's do some printing with these pretty textures. So I definitely want to use the one that I just made because I want to show you what it looks like. I have a couple here that I can show you first that I already made, and I can also show you the texture that I used to create it. So this is the one with the circles, and as you can see, it's a very organic texture. Very organic random shapes, which I really, really like, because this would make a really nice background for an art journal page or as collage paper. Then I also made this one using this flower, kind of a flower shape. And here I have some that I made using, this is this leaf, I think, and this one is made with this leaf, and you might not actually really recognize the shape, but you get this like organic feel of leaves, falling leaves, something like that. This again, a leaf, and more of the circles and the flowers. So I'm going to show you different ways of using these textures, and two of them are the most obvious. This is one where I move color from one side to the other side, and the other one is here where I actually just remove color from the plate. So I'm going to start with applying some color to my plate, and I'm only going to cover half of my plate instead of the entire plate. And I'm using, let me see, oh, I have no idea how to pronounce that. Cridone magenta. So it's a very difficult magenta. I have no idea how to pronounce that.
I don't think it's difficult. Come on. We'll ask Marcia. Marcia can pronounce it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she can.
Which one?
Quinacridone magenta, something like.
Quinacridone magenta.
See,
I knew
very
it.
difficult, a very difficult.
But then
magenta.
on the other hand, there are other words that I cannot pronounce.
Yeah, like repositionable.
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
There you
good
go.
job.
So the second one is easier to pronounce, and that's one of my my favorite colors is a Prussian blue hue. And so I'm going to use these two colors together and roll them out, and I'm going to blend them a little bit, but not entirely, because I don't want one new color. I still want to see that I used two different colors instead of one color. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my texture and stamp in here. And then I'm going to lift it up. And as you can see, I removed some of the paint from my plate. And then I'm going to put it back down in an area where there's no paint. So I'm actually moving paint from this side to the other side. And I'm just very randomly doing that. And I think I like this texture. So there you go. And I have to say, when you use this texture for the first time, when there's not yet any paint on it, then it might be a little bit slippery. It might move a little bit. So it gets better actually when there's more paint on your texture. And also it's picking up more paint from the plate once there is a little bit of a layer of paint on top of the glue. So your prints will also get better in time when you use the texture a bit more. So let's just see.
How long do you think those little stamps will last?
Oh, a very, very long time. So here we have the print. A very, very long time, because it's just going to build up acrylic paint, but the acrylic paint is going to dry and it's just going to be, so the texture is just going to be a little bit thicker. But as it's not like very detailed, it's not like there are open areas going to fill up or anything. So you can actually use them, I would almost say like forever. I would not see any reason why this would not last.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
So that's one. That's the first one. And I'm going to leave this paint on there and add some new color. And this will, if it's still wet, it will just mix with the new color I put on there. And if it's already dry, it might just pick up with the next print that I'm going to do. So let me see. I'm actually going to do one where I'm only going to remove paint from the plate. So I'm not going to move it from one side to the other, but I'm just going to remove it. And in that case, I need some paper that I can clean off my texture. Because as you could see very clearly in my previous print, when I put it on the plate and I lift it up, there's this layer of paint on there. If I would then just put it back into paint, it would stop picking up paint from the plate because this is wet and it can just not hold any more paint. So I need to clean off my texture in between stamping on my plate to be able to pick up more paint. And let me see, what color am I going to use on this one? I might actually try this pink one, because I just told you no that it is an opaque color. And I'm going to add a permanent rose. This is a permanent rose, also very, very nice color. So if I want to remove paint from the plate, I have to make sure that the layer of paint on my plate is not too thick, because if you have a very thick layer of paint on your plate, it will be very hard to remove it. So down here, the pink is way too much paint. If I put my texture in there, I will lift up some paint, but not enough to actually see the texture because there's just too much paint on my plate. So I'm going to roll off my brayer and then go back in there with my brayer. And that way I'm going to remove some of that paint, some of that excess paint from my plate. And when I have a nice and even thin layer of paint, I can use my texture and remove paint from the plate. And I'm just going to press it down on a sheet of paper. And I think I still have a little bit too much paint. So I'm just going to roll this out again, which then also takes away some more of that paint. And try again. For some reason, I have a feeling that this one is going to be the failure of this class, because in every class, there's at least one print that doesn't work out, which is okay, because then you can also see that I'm not always having perfect prints all the time. But let's see, sometimes you get a really nice surprise when you feel like it's not going to go anywhere, then you get a really nice print, and sometimes you're like, oh, this is going to be a great one, and then you pull it up and you're like, is this it? So this is kind of, is this it? So
somebody just said no failures. It's just
No.
all about learning.
It is, and to be true, it's not a failure in the way that this cannot be used as a print, as a nice background, or to put an extra layer on. But it is a failure in the way that I wanted to show you how you can remove paint from the plate, and that's not exactly what I did here. So in that matter, it's a failure, but still it's, I think, a nice print that I can definitely work with. And what to think about my cleanup paper? Isn't that pretty? I always keep those cleanup papers, and they at some point always are being turned into collage paper. But let's try again. I'm going to give it another try with the removing paint, and an even thinner layer than I just did before. And I need some more cleanup paper.
People are saying they want your cleanup paper. So pretty.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I could sell it.
Packs of 20 cleanup paper already used.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be surprised what people want to buy. Okay, I'm going to try again with these colors, or actually, I'm going to do the difficult magenta again, and the Prussian blue. This is absolutely one of my go-to color combinations, because this is such a, don't you think that this is a really rich, beautiful
That might
color?
be my favorite color. I love that color.
And this is also very nice blue color. So I think this time I have my layer, a better layer, actually. So let's try again. And I'm going to use the circles now. And that looks better already, because you can actually see the texture on the plate. I really like this texture. It's so, I mean, the backgrounds with this texture can be used for anything. Maybe you can notice that there's a little bit of the magenta down here in the blue. So not all of it was cleaned up on my paper, and I actually moved a little bit, but that's okay. I might pick up a little bit more here. Okay, let's see what happens now. This better be a good one.
Somebody, while you're pulling that, somebody asked if you could use the hot glue gun on a CD jewel case. So I'm thinking a plastic case, because it's transparent so you can see through it. Have you ever done that, other than use that versus cardboard?
No, I haven't. I haven't, and I have no idea what the hot glue would do with the plastic.
Okay.
So that probably depends on whether you have low heat or high heat glue gun.
Yeah, maybe.
I can imagine. Actually, I was supposed to look at mine if I can see how hot, if this is a low or. No, it's not saying it. It's not saying that. But I assume that if you have, even if you have a low heat glue gun, if it melts the glue and it sticks to the cardboard, then that's enough, right?
Mhm.
You don't
Yes.
need to have it any hotter. But so this is the new print, and here you can actually see that my texture lifted up the paint from the plate, and that it's a very random and organic texture that I created. So the magenta that I used here is not an opaque color, and it's still enough contrast, because this is a darker color than the one that's underneath. But if I would have used a color that is opaque, then I would get even more contrast between the background and so let's say in the open areas and the areas that are covered. But I kind of like this not so perfect, to be these prints to be not so perfect.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
another, yeah.
Somebody's asking, but I just want you to save time at the end to show off some of your other prints. Like somebody asked, what do you do with all the prints? So at the end, could you show us some of all the beautiful things that you have, your books and
Yeah, sure. So how about I do one more print and then I pull out some journals with where my gel prints are in, and then I can show a little bit. I
Okay,
have
good.
one more background. So if I do this background, print on this background, and then I can show something.
Okay, good.
Okay, so I'm going to do one more. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to do one more where I only cover half of the. Let me see. I want another blue or a green. Let's do another green. A deep permanent green. And a baby blue, a light blue permanent. And mix those together. And again, way too much paint, too bad. That's what you get when you only want to do half of your plate. Then you have to figure out the amount of paint that you're going to use.
So we also have a question about the wood block. So maybe
Okay.
when you get a chance, you can talk about that.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. I think this is maybe not the perfect color combination to put on this background. So I think I will just print this on a sheet of white sheet of paper, because otherwise you might not see the texture, and I want you to see the texture. So I'm just going to print straight on the white card. What you of course can also do is the texture that I just created and am now printing on my white card. There we go. I just could have let this paint dry and then use a thin layer of another color of paint to pick up the print. So then my background would actually get a different color because the pickup color would be different. So if I would have left this to dry and then used, for instance, a yellow to pull up the print, then my background would have been yellow, because this is the first layer and the yellow goes on top. So when you turn it around, the yellow is actually underneath the blue and the green. So that's also a way you can do it. You don't have to pull the wet paint straight away. You can also leave it to dry. Okay. About the block. What is the question about the block?
They saw the block and they just wanted to see how did you attach cardboard to the block, or did you
on this,
apply
yeah,
hot glue?
No, so this is hot glue, the leaf and the flower. And
Okay.
on this side, I just have a piece of corrugated cardboard. And here I have some self-adhesive craft foam where I put, I used an embossing tool to create lines in it. And then I cut little strips and glued it on here. And on this side, this is just wooden hearts that I put on there. And oh, this is also craft foam. So there are all kinds of things that you can put on a block like this, and then you have like 6 textures in one block. And so there is a video which was also a class for Michael's, that you can find about all the things you can do on wooden blocks to create these texture blocks. And then if you have a couple of these, then this is all you have to pull out for an afternoon of gel printing fun, and you will have a whole load of textures in just a tiny little bit box of texture blocks. That's how I call them, texture blocks. So let me see if I can find a couple of the the books that I made with gel prints and how I use them. I'm not sure. I don't see my, oh, here's a journal too. So one of the things I like to do is create little tag books. So I like to print on tags and then bind the tags together into little books. And so this is basically just backgrounds. I have not worked in this book yet, and I might never actually, because I just love pretty paper, and I can be totally happy with a little book with gel prints in it and not do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I could use them as backgrounds to art journal on. And so here I have a journal that I actually do work in, and most of these backgrounds of these art journal pages are gel prints. And I just open my book somewhere and just start working on top of whatever is in there. So this is, for instance, is also a gel print, and I might just open it and create an art journal page, sorry, on top of it. So this is also, the background is a gel print. So I create a journal or a tag book from gel prints.
So they want to see, Birgit, they want to see how they're bound. Can you show those two quickly, how they were bound?
Yeah, so this one, this is like a block book, and this is a very old one. I think this is one of the first books I brought actually to Frankfurt.
Mm-hmm.
To
I love that one.
To Paper World. So this is basically this is the print. So you can see it like this. This is the print, and I fold it. And I do that with all of my prints. And then I just glue them back to back together. And there is also a video in which I show how to create this book. I think even for Michael's too. I'm not really sure, but there is a video in which I show how I create a book like this. So I glue them back to back, and then you can glue as many pages together as you like. And you just put something around the spine, like fabric or sticky back canvas or something like that, and put a print on the front and a print on the back, and then you have your book.
Can you show the binding on the tag book?
Yeah, so this is not the right tag book to show you, because this is quite difficult, but I actually took a class for this binding. So this is a kind of a more difficult way of binding that I cannot explain right now, but this is the kind of tag books that I make. And so these are also all gel prints, and as you can see, most of them are just the prints, but here and there, like here, for instance, I actually did worked on it, but that might actually end up to be the only one that I worked on. But I just love books like this. Mm-hmm. And what I do with my tags is, let me see if I can show you real quick with just normal paper. If this would be 2 tags, I would take a strip of paper. I need my scissors. Where are one? Let me see. Here is a pair of scissors. So I take a strip of paper that and there's also a video available in which I show this. So I fold the strip of paper, and of course I do it more precise than I'm showing right now. But then what I actually do is I put 1 tag on this side and 1 tag on that side. So I get the two tags with the right side facing each other, and the strip of paper is around it like this.
Okay.
Right? That's the first step.
Okay.
And then when you open it, you have two pages, two tags next to each other. Right?
Yes.
So you create a whole bunch of these.
Oh.
And then you do the same as you do with this book. So you put them, these double pages, back to back together. You glue them together.
Okay.
So then, where's the book here? So what you actually get is that there is this strip of paper between every two tags. And you can see this like white line here.
Yes.
So these two tags were put together. These two tags were put together. And then the four of them were glued together here, like these two were glued together back to back, right? And then at the end, I do the same as with this book. I just put something around the spine, and then I put a cover and a back cover. And in this case, I cut out from heavier cardboard or chipboard, the same size as my tag, and I put that on the front and put a tag on top. So I have like a sturdier cover.
So now people are saying thank you because you've just taught them something else in the same class. But they have one last question that
Yes.
I'm going to ask, which is, do you have a favorite kind of glue that you like to use for binding?
Oh, I usually, maybe we can just switch to front view. Yes, okay. So as we're going to talk, just going to talk now. So I like to use a double-sided adhesive, like in a roller.
Yes.
Is it called? Yeah, because then that doesn't make the paper wrinkle or buckle, you know. So if you would use a fluid adhesive or a tacky glue or something like that, or bookbinding glue or anything like that, and you put the papers together, then it would start to buckle. So I like to use a double-sided tape, and that means that it's like not completely stuck together everywhere, but that's okay because there's already so much paint on the print that when you work on it in your journal, it's not going to soak through the paper or anything, so it's not going to affect the double-sided tape. And then usually I add some extra like tacky glue between the binding and the cover, because this is like a fabric, and the double-sided tape usually doesn't stick that well on the fabric. So I put some extra, I put the double-sided tape, and then I put some extra like sticky glue, tacky glue or something like that in between to make it hold better.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing all your secrets.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope you enjoyed again this class, and I'm back next month, and I don't remember the exact date, but it will be on my Instagram feed soon, and also on the Gelli Arts feed. And I'm in my next class, I'm going to show you how you can print with masking tape. And then, I mean, not on top of masking tape, but how you can use masking tape to pull paint from the plate. That's what I'm going to show, and how you can create beautiful masking tape strips, collage material to use in your mixed media and in your art journals. And so keep an eye on our Instagram feeds, so you know when it's going to happen. And I hope I will see you again then. And have a nice day. That's it. Thank you. Bye.